Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any other non-committee members that would care to have a word? Seeing none. Committee members, I have Councillor Thompson with a motion, and then Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was on a long-distance FCM call, but had an opportunity to listen to the questions and so on. The motion that I move, I wonder if staff can put the motion on the screen. And this is essentially to replace the motion in recommendation 2 with a new 2, which simply reads that City Council authorize the General Manager of Economic Development versus authorizing the solicitor to execute the agreement. Obviously, the solicitors are involved, but Mr. Williams is very much front and center with respect to the process of this negotiation. So I've asked, this is a technical amendment in essence, I've been asked to move this. I want to, first of all, thank the Kiwanis, and I also want to thank our staff, Mr. Williams in particular, and others who have been involved with respect to this negotiation. I note that I was privy, and as many of us were, some of the new members were not, to the discussion that took place around, Kiwanis being involved with respect to the management of Casa Loma. And there were those who didn't want that to go ahead, and those who wanted that to go ahead, and there was a board structure change and so on. Obviously, that exercise didn't work. And we know that because we're here again today, doing in essence what occurred some 4 years ago, I think, and maybe less. But in essence, I think that what we have in front of us should be supported. Casa Loma is, in fact, a city treasure. It costs a lot to maintain. We haven't done the best job in terms of maintaining it over the years, as we've heard. However, I wouldn't want to see, as was the question that was proposed in or the statement that was proposed in the Toronto Star a couple of days ago, where it said perhaps we should just demolish this particular structure and do something else. I think that as a city asset, and I've been to Casa Loma on numerous occasions. Every time I go there, I find something new. And while some will just describe it as an old building, I describe it as a treasure in our city that really, and I know that Councillor Mihevc, and by the way, Councillor Mihevc has played a great role in Casa Loma and the whole process there. So I too want to thank him, because in fact it's nobody's fault while we're in this particular position. It's a lack of resources for the most part, and we've heard that Kiwanis has done the best that they can. I note that from my position as Chair of Economic Development, there has been a number of folks who have come forward, have expressed an interest in wanting to do things with this particular facility, and in fact may very well get that opportunity. I'm obviously desirous of seeing the plans that will come in the future. I know we're not there yet, but we need to basically reach an agreement in order to terminate the agreement with the Kiwanis group and to move ahead. So I'm asking that the report, and I'll move the recommendations here in the report with the change in 2, and I'm asking that members of the Executive Committee approve what we have in front of us here today, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That would bring us to the next speaker, Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The clerk's just finessing a motion for me after I just finished some discussions. Basically, I'm going to echo the sentiments that were put forward by Councillor Mihevc. With one exception, Casa Loma, I would agree, we've got 3 young kids in our family, and we do a lot of the historical sites around the city. We've been to Casa Loma almost on an annual basis. Sometimes we go twice a year. My kids are very excited about it, and I will agree with what Councillor Mihevc said about, you go in the front door, you eventually get up to the turrets, and it's a magnificent view of this out downtown Toronto. When this castle was built in the early, the 1920s, it was actually on the northern boundaries of the city of Toronto. So it was really designed to look back on the city. I guess that's where Councillor Mihevc and I kind of differ in opinion, because one of the big issues I have from there, I think the city of Toronto has done a great job on working on the exterior of the Casa Loma. Where I differ from Councillor Mihevc, though, is on the upkeep and the interior of the castle, where there's a number of areas that are even noticeable to our children. For example, when you go in the Henry Pellet's master bedroom, the floor is right down to the varnish. There's a number of fixtures throughout the castle that have been broken for years. And I don't think the Kiwanis have done an adequate job of looking after the interior of this castle. You can look at the attendance numbers. They're steadily decreasing. I think it was Councillor Thompson that mentioned on most nights, even though there's banquet facilities in this castle that are available for rental, from what I've heard and the numbers I've seen, the majority of time after 6 o'clock when this castle shuts down for tourists, the majority of time it's empty. I don't think that the facilities that are within it, if you look at the restaurant or the gift shop, the conference center, as I just mentioned, the banquet facilities, I don't think they're been put to their best use. There's been a number of different attractions over the years. March Break stands out to me. Christmas, they've had different theater productions, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more potential for this castle. And I think, the Kiwanis have had an admirable attempt at it. But I think this report is going to take the castle to the next stage. And I'm asking, to support my recommendation to remove number E, but also support the rest of the recommendations in this report. There's an old quote from a movie I was watching just last week where a couple were breaking up and the woman said to her boyfriend, I don't want this to end badly. And the boyfriend responded with, well, all things end badly, otherwise they wouldn't end. And this has been a 70-year relationship, but I'm not prepared to allow the Kiwanis to have weekly meetings free of charge and up to 5 charitable events a year, when I don't think they've done an adequate job of looking after something that they were entrusted to going back to 1937 and that we just renewed 2 years ago. And, I don't think they have the track record to support us allowing that.
Thank you, Councillor. Next speaker, Councillor.
I want to ask a question on this motion.
Oh, go ahead and question him, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Ainsley, this item here, you heard that staff talked about this was the best deal that we can make, et cetera, et cetera. Did you talk to staff about what the ramifications of removing 2E would be?
Yes, I did.
And
Sorry, yes, I did. I actually had a more extensive motion. There was actually a couple of these recommendations I wanted to remove, and under the guidance of staff, I removed them from my motion because I don't want to impede the...
motion on the board, please.
I don't want to impede the negotiations.
I know.
Sorry? This isn't a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker, Councillor Del Grande.
Sorry?
It's not a deal breaker.
So staff told you it's not a deal breaker.
Who knows?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to know with respect to your motion, which is very direct, could it be worded in such a way that you give staff the wiggle room to negotiate that as opposed to, like, I'd hate to see the whole deal fall down on that one item if that becomes a deal breaker. I don't know. So, Mr. Chair, the problem I'm having is that this motion, I don't know how to support it if staff said they made the deal and without political whatever. I would hope somehow to open just to find out it would make a difference how I voted for this item or not. So, with your indulgence, I'm getting hearsay. I'd like to really know from staff if they're okay with it.
Is that the will of the committee? Would you
Yes, it
direct
is,
the staff
Mr.
on
Chairman.
this point?
Sure.
Mr. Williams, the question of whether or not this would preclude a deal has come up. Could you answer that?
Well, obviously, I can't answer for Kiwanis directly. I know in the negotiations, the club has been very closely associated with Casa Loma. The name of that chapter is the Kiwanis of Casa Loma. Their view was, how can we be called the Kiwanis of Casa Loma if we're not in the castle anymore? I said, well, there's precedence for that sort of thing elsewhere. So emotionally, this is a big thing for them. Are they prepared to walk away for the whole deal over this item? Because in the end, they could pay rent and use it for their meetings. And so it's I would try to turn it into a modest financial issue rather than the fact that we're kicking them out of the castle. But I can't guarantee you I can hold the deal together. I said to the councillor that I'd take a good shot at it, but you never know how the service club is going to react and the membership is going to react.
So, Mr.
They've
Chair,
approved it already.
would it be an opportunity that if it was a deal breaker, that we would have an opportunity to waive or not waive?
I don't know that, Councillor, and that's, I guess, the trouble with the motion. So if you're having difficulty, I guess you'll know how to vote.
Okay, can I then ask this of Councillor Ainsley? Could there be another option? Maybe you're against up to 5 charitable events, but maybe a or 2 charitable events, something that's a little bit more modest? I mean, I agree with you, but I just want to, maybe 5 might be a little bit too rich.
Maybe ask Mr. Williams?
Well,
I'm happy if this committee was to give me instructions to negotiate back on this clause, but to tie my hands on clause or no clause does make it into a bit of a brinkmanship negotiation where they say we're walking and, we say, well, it's okay, walk. And,
Okay, so-
they're a service club and I don't, this emotionality runs a lot of their decision-making. So I'm quite happy to take some strong direction from this committee and, do my best shot at trying to talk them into a softening of this. We have a 12-year, we have a kick out anyway, but if you tie my hands completely, then this could be into a,
okay. So,
Okay.
Mr.
So
Chair,
why-
what I'm going to do then is,
Well, you can do it when you
No,
speak.
no, I'm-
But I think, you've heard the
Yeah.
jeopardy involved
But I
in
mean,
this, and you can make your decision accordingly.
Yeah, okay.
The next speaker we have then is or unless there's any other questions, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Is Councillor Ainsley, would you be willing to entertain a friendly amendment to add that for Mr. Williams to negotiate the terms and conditions and whatever and to report directly to City Council?
Yep, I'm fine with that. If I don't want to tie Mr. Williams' hands, I certainly don't want to see this deal fall apart on this item
So
or this clause.
I will move that.
Are you accepting that as a friendly amendment then? And that was that Mr. Williams would, report back if he has difficulty with your motion?
Does that work, Mr. Williams?
If they'll agree to it?
Report to council or?
If he gets the chance, if they don't just plain fly. Is that right?
Yeah, report to council.
Okay. Any other questions? If not,